In Yemen, a child as young as 8 can be seen carrying a rifle, sometimes larger than his own body. And in some weddings, the groom isn't allowed to see the bride until after they're married. This is not a story from centuries ago. This is life, today, in one of the most dangerous and forgotten corners of the Arab world. Stay with us, because what you're about to see is the side of Yemen the world was never meant to witness. Yemen lies beside the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a narrow maritime choke point through which nearly 12% of global trade, especially oil, flows between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Surrounded by wealthy neighbors like Saudi Arabia and Oman, and with over 2,000 kilometers of coastline, the country holds a location many would consider golden. On paper, Yemen should have been a hub for shipping, tourism, trade. But reality unfolded differently. Its ports have been disrupted by conflict. Its airports remain largely closed. Roads and highways, once built to connect regions, have cracked and faded under years of neglect. Beachfronts lie untouched. Hotels once designed for foreign guests now stand in silence, battered by sun and war. Geography offered a promise. History didn't keep it. For centuries, Yemen was rarely in control of its own fate. From Ottoman ambitions to British colonization to today's proxy conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran, the country has often been treated as a strategic pawn, not a sovereign state. Even now, oil tankers pass through its waters, headed west, while Yemenis wait in line for gasoline imported from abroad. The oil is there, beneath their feet, but the refineries are broken. The system to distribute it no longer functions. Yemen could have been a vital bridge between continents. Instead, it's become a country bypassed, physically, economically, and politically. So what happens when geography is no longer a strength, but a forgotten inheritance? And more importantly, what does daily life look like in a country where law, order, and certainty no longer exist? Traveling across Yemen involves navigating territories controlled by various factions. Military checkpoints are frequent, but they do not always indicate state control. Some are operated by government forces, others by rebel groups, and many by unaffiliated armed actors. Identification procedures vary. Travelers may be stopped, questioned, or allowed to pass without explanation. The country lacks a centralized legal authority. Local governance shifts depending on the region, and many areas are effectively lawless. Armed groups, including internationally designated terrorist organizations, maintain open presence in several provinces. In some locations, their flags and checkpoints are visible and unchallenged. Incidents of kidnapping are reported regularly. Victims include both foreigners and Yemeni citizens. In some cases, ransom demands are issued. In others, individuals disappear without follow-up or accountability. The absence of a reliable judiciary or police structure contributes to a general sense of insecurity. Disputes are often settled informally. There is no national emergency hotline. Distinctions between police and militia are unclear. Despite these conditions, civilian activity continues. Shops operate in many towns, and families still move between urban and rural areas. Daily life proceeds under unpredictable and unstable circumstances. In Yemen, women occupy a space that is largely invisible to the outside world. Their voices are rarely heard in public, their faces almost never seen. Covered in the traditional black veil known as the niqab, many women move through daily life behind layers of fabric that conceal not just appearance, but identity. Social expectations and legal restrictions often dictate every aspect of a woman's movement. In many areas, women cannot walk alone in public. Driving is restricted. Attending school or holding a job typically requires permission from a male guardian. Even casual conversation with a man outside the family may be frowned upon, or worse. Child marriage remains widespread, particularly in rural communities. Girls, Some, as young as 13 or 14, are married to much older men. These unions are frequently framed as necessity, a way for struggling families to ease financial burden. Once married, a girl's autonomy shrinks further, often giving way to a life defined by domestic responsibility. In certain regions, more severe practices persist. Female genital mutilation, though illegal, is still quietly carried out, often during infancy. It remains a taboo subject, rarely discussed, yet widely accepted in some communities. Yet despite these limitations, Yemeni women play critical roles in sustaining their families and communities. Though mostly absent from public life, they manage households, care for children, and in many cases become the quiet backbone of survival. What exists behind the veil is not merely silence. It is structure. It is endurance. And while women here may not appear in the headlines or the town square, their influence, however constrained, is embedded in the everyday rhythms of a country shaped by both conflict and tradition. In Yemen, no agricultural product is more widely consumed or more controversial than khat. Locally known as green gold, khat is a leafy shrub that produces a mild stimulant when chewed. For centuries, it has been an integral part of Yemeni social life. In the afternoons, it's common to see groups of men, and in some areas, women, gathering in homes, markets, or roadside circles to chew the leaves, often for hours. The effects are subtle, but habit-forming. A temporary sense of alertness, appetite suppression, and mild euphoria. But the cultural practice, though deeply rooted, comes at a significant cost. Khat is highly addictive. In many households, it replaces meals. Families often spend a disproportionate share of their income on the habit. Despite widespread food insecurity, farmers continue to prioritize khat cultivation over essential crops like grains or vegetables, largely because it's more profitable. Environmental concerns are also growing. Khat farming consumes a substantial portion of Yemen's already scarce water resources, further straining rural infrastructure. In a country grappling with drought and poor water management, the impact is far-reaching. Health implications are another issue. Hospitals report high rates of dental decay and digestive disorders linked to chronic khat use. Meanwhile, work productivity drops in the late afternoon as businesses close early to accommodate chewing sessions. And yet, despite its effects, khat remains largely unregulated. Few public campaigns challenge its use. It is considered both a tradition and a daily necessity, a plant that offers temporary relief in a country facing long-term crisis. As Yemen continues to face economic paralysis and humanitarian breakdown, khat remains a paradox, both a cultural anchor and a national burden. Drive through Yemen long enough, and you'll start to question whether anyone still lives here. Entire neighborhoods stand frozen in time, abandoned homes with shattered windows, rusted gates creaking in the wind, and streets that haven't seen maintenance in years. What used to be vibrant cities have turned into ghost towns. Some buildings still bear traces of their former lives: a faded shop sign, a broken toy in a doorway, a cracked mirror reflecting nothing but dust. These were once schools, clinics, bakeries. Now they're silent shells. Violence has driven families out and few dare to return. Looting is common. Gunshots echo at night. In some areas, even stray animals have disappeared, as if nature itself has fled. Roads connecting these ghost zones are just as grim. Once paved highways are now broken trails, lined with abandoned vehicles, many of them stripped bare, their parts scavenged to the bone. Every few miles you pass a military checkpoint, manned by anxious, armed men with no uniforms, no insignia, just nerves and rifles. Even public transportation has vanished. Buses no longer run. Cars are a rare sight, and those that remain often limp, along with cracked windshields and tires too thin for the journey. Many people, including children, walk miles across desert roads to reach the nearest village, dust-covered, barefoot, and silent. The deeper you go, the more you feel it. A land emptied out not by nature, but by neglect. Cities hollowed by fear. Roads worn down not just by time, but by despair. In Yemen, silence isn't peace. It's the aftermath of something that never really ended. In cities like Taiz and Al-Hudaydah, it is not uncommon to see children navigating streets damaged by years of conflict. But they are not just going to school. Many are carrying weapons. Some are barely taller than the rifles slung over their shoulders. Recruited by armed groups or coerced into militias, boys as young as 8 are turned into combatants long before they understand the war they are pulled into. Girls face a different fate, though no less severe. Many are married off while still in their early teens, often not because of cultural tradition alone, but as a desperate economic measure. For impoverished families, a daughter's marriage means fewer mouths to feed, and a dowry that can provide temporary relief. As a result, many girls become wives and mothers before they have even learned to read or write. Almost 40% of Yemen's population is under the age of 15. For most of them, childhood does not offer dreams, only survival. Schools have been reduced to rubble or repurposed into shelters. Where classes still function, they often lack basic materials, suffer from overcrowding, and have no access to electricity. In rural areas, internet access is virtually non-existent, and textbooks are years out of date. And yet, in the middle of these harsh conditions, there are brief moments of normalcy. In alleyways and empty lots, barefoot boys play football with worn-out balls, kicking them between rocks or makeshift goalposts. For those few minutes, the sound of laughter replaces gunfire, and the weight of their reality momentarily lifts. But those moments never last. Reality always returns. In a country where hospitals barely function, where food is scarce and medicine limited, it is Yemen's children who shoulder the longest consequences. They are not merely affected by the war. They are growing up defined by it. What kind of adulthood awaits a generation raised in ruin? That question will shape Yemen's future. But for now, these children continue forward, not with innocence, but with a quiet resilience the world rarely stops to see. Sana'a, Yemen's ancient capital, stands like a forgotten postcard from another era. Its skyline of mud brick towers, once admired for their ornate white patterns, now crumbles in silence. Streets are dusty, littered, and filled with a quiet sense of decay. Electricity comes for just a few hours a day. Modern development? Absent. Signs on buildings have faded, and nothing seems to have changed in decades. But Sana'a is not alone. The entire economy mirrors this paralysis. Gasoline, though Yemen sits on oil reserves, must be imported from Oman. Prices have tripled. Doctors earn barely $200 a month, if they're paid at all. Teachers, often unpaid for months. University degrees hang on walls like forgotten promises. With the currency in freefall, even daily necessities are beyond reach. Men crowd the streets selling anything they can: spices, textiles, fruit, perfume. Yet few buyers come. With over 80% of the population needing humanitarian aid, consumer demand is a luxury. There's no middle class here, only the struggling and the desperate. Public transportation is nearly non-existent. Buses have vanished, cars barely run. Some children walk miles barefoot to reach city centers, hoping to sell small goods or find work. Others simply wander, covered in dust, eyes searching for something to do, or someone to help. Still, the people endure. Markets continue to buzz with quiet determination. Vendors smile, even when sales are scarce. They'll offer you a cup of tea, even if they can't afford sugar. It's not just business, it's survival with dignity. And in the heart of all this stands Sana'a, not just a capital, but a symbol. A city frozen in time, reflecting the larger paralysis of a nation. Once vibrant, now barely breathing. The collapse isn't loud, it whispers. In every shuttered shop, every unpaid worker, every flickering bulb. This is what an economy looks like. Not when it crashes suddenly, but when it slowly forgets how to live. In Yemen, words become walls. Nearly everything, from street signs to store labels, is written in Arabic. English is almost non-existent. Even in urban centers, few locals speak it, and conversations can quickly turn into frustrating games of gestures and guesses. For travelers, it's more than just a communication gap. It's a complete silence. Without a guide, even the simplest tasks, buying water, asking directions, understanding a roadblock, can feel impossible. Misunderstandings aren't just inconvenient, they can be dangerous in a country where tensions are always near the surface. You might find yourself stopped at a checkpoint, with no way to explain who you are or why you're there. That's where local guides come in, not just as translators, but as lifelines. They know which roads to take, which neighborhoods to avoid, how to read subtle signs that could mean safety or threat. Many of them are former journalists or aid workers, fluent in both language and survival. Their role is not to show you the country, it's to keep you in one piece while you see it. And in a place where a wrong word can close doors, or worse, having someone who knows how to speak to everyone, from shopkeepers to soldiers, is the only way to truly glimpse the world within Yemen's borders. Because here, it's not just about what's said, but who's there to say it for you. In Yemen, daily survival often overshadows every other aspect of life, yet small moments of generosity continue to persist. At a modest street vendor's stall in Sana'a or Aden, it's not uncommon to be offered a cup of tea before any transaction takes place. The setting is simple. Low stools, a pot of stew, a plate of bread. People sit on the floor and eat with their hands, not out of tradition alone, but because this is what is available. In many households, this may be the only meal of the day. Still, there's a clear rule. The guest is always served first and offered the best portion. In a place where food insecurity is widespread, this gesture speaks volumes. It's not about hospitality in the traditional sense. It's about preserving dignity in the face of scarcity. Street vendors, many earning less than $30 a month, continue to show up, arrange their goods, and greet customers with a smile. A sale doesn't bring wealth, but it brings purpose. A sense of normalcy in an otherwise unstable world. Ask someone their age, and they may not give a direct answer. Birthdays are rarely celebrated. For many, time is measured not in years, but in events. Conflicts, droughts, or the day a relative left and never returned. These interactions carry no pretension. They are stripped down to the essentials: food, warmth, a shared glance. And yet they reveal something deeper. Behind each offering is uncertainty. Behind each smile, a quiet resignation. And behind every shared plate is a hope that tomorrow will still arrive. In a country worn down by crisis, these gestures are not signs of resilience for the sake of a headline. They are simply how people continue, with what little they have and all they refuse to give up. If this journey moved you, consider subscribing. There's more to this world than meets the eye, and we'll keep uncovering it, one forgotten place at a time. See you in the next story.